by Friday, the things that were on my to-do list aren't quite so important. So actually, if they get pushed for another time, then that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think you need to know as an individual when your golden moments are, when you're super productive, when you're more attentive, when you know you're less likely to go rogue. And that's looking at your life, because there's no point in me planning anything in from 4:00, say, on a Thursday or a Friday or anything like that, because I know that there's loads of stuff that happens with the kids.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. Monique Sveinsson is in the studio with me today. She is the founder and CEO of the Perfect Planner Company. And I am hoping to pick Monique's brains all about the art of planning and organising and what that can do for us as often busy, multi-passionate, juggling women in business. So Monique, a huge welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for having me. It's so brilliant to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So Monique, tell us a little bit about the world of planning and, the Perfect Planner Company. How was that birthed?
Okay, so Perfect Planner Company essentially is a stationery brand that has been on the market now for 8 years, which I've been running that product-based business now, for nearly 8 years, which is absolutely crazy. I came into it because of a love of planning. And planning is an interesting one, isn't it? Lots of people say, oh yeah, I love it. I'm addicted to planning. They absolutely thrive on it. But what I used to do before I did this, I think really, really set me up on that path to really be able to understand about planning, to understand the sort of joy really behind it. I used to be a stage manager in the theatre, in the West End Theatre. So for 20 plus years, I don't want to give my age away too much. Of course, I'm still 21.
Exactly.
But I worked as a stage manager in the theatre, where I had to look after some big major productions. So as stage manager, essentially you are, to describe it, I suppose, is sort of that glue that knits together the acting company and all of the technical company. And with that comes a lot of sort of logistical organisation, whether it's in scene changes happening on set to make sure that they all happen at the right time, whether it's the show starts at the right time, to make sure that rehearsals happen the way that they should, to mapping out that whole rehearsal process, to understand that every scene is covered, to know that every performer has got their costume fitted and their wigs fitted and mics fitted and all of those kind of things. So I, from a very, very young age, knew all about planning and organisation and the precision that came with putting on a show. And essentially that goal was always to make sure that the show went up on opening night at the right time and that everybody was ready for it. So you have to do all of this sort of back planning and back preparation. And I did that right up until my daughter was 3 years old. So I had my first daughter in 2011 and I kept working in the theatre, but it was hard. I was doing 70, 80 hours a week. I was working 6 days a week with only one day off. I was working every evening. It was 8 shows a week, so 2 days with matinees. And it was really, really hard. And I had a young daughter that did not like sleep. I wish I'd have known about you. but she absolutely hated sleep. So I didn't sleep at night. And then I'd have to get up with her in the day and then go and do a show at night time. Yeah. And it was really hard. So eventually, after many things happening to me in my life and many sort of moments where I thought I just can't do this anymore, which was a shame because I loved it. I loved what I did. I just couldn't carry it on. So I thought, what am I going to do? At the time I thought, I don't have any transferable skills. I don't know what else to do. But bit by bit with these things, you start to work things out. And I found myself in direct selling. I don't know if you know about that industry at all, but essentially it's selling products of some kind from home, and you would use that umbrella of a company to sell to other people, and sometimes you would bring people into your team to work with you. And as I was doing that, I realised that I found my bit of a superpower with a lot of the mums that I was working with, that none of them could get themselves organised. They couldn't find a way to organise their business and their home life. And they used to keep saying to me, Monique, you seem to have this all sewn up. How are you doing all of this? And I suppose then that's when the penny dropped. I thought, God, I'm using all this stuff that I'd done in the theatre.
Yeah.
And I was bringing it into my home life. So I learned how to time block, and I learned how to manage my time, and I learned how to sort of spin the plates of family life and business life. And I wasn't stressed out with it. I mean, I'd say I was never stressed. Of course, there's moments in your life where we get stressed out. That's human nature. But I could manage it quite well. And a lot of these mums that I was working with said to me, I just don't get how you're doing it. So I started to put together some worksheets and little timetables and almost rotas like I used to use in the theatre for them. And it completely changed their business. All of a sudden, they were seeing massive results because they'd stop procrastination, they'd stop wasting time, they had a goal, they knew exactly where they were heading.
Yeah.
And I thought, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put these into a planner, which I did. And at the time had not a clue about starting a product-based business, didn't have an idea about how to put together a planner. But, you know, I'm intelligent enough to sit there and work it all out. And
figure it out
and get it done. And, God, I made some huge mistakes along the way, you know, some really, really big ones. But I've learnt my skill, learnt my craft. And so this is where I am 8 years later, you know, with a brilliant, thriving business. And, I mean, I love it. I love sort of where this has taken me. And I think it was all of that back in the theatre that taught me all of those skills.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wouldn't change it now. So that's kind of led me to where I am, to learn all about that planning and organisation.
I love that story. As soon as you said the theatre, I thought, oh, wow, another one, because I meet so many women in businesses now who had a background in some way related to performing arts in some way. And I know you may have been behind the scenes, but still. And yeah, I wasn't a sleep expert when your little one was that little, because I was having my own little ones at the exact same time as you and leaving the world of the stage myself. So really similar timeline to you. And I can relate to you because I guess, you know, I was still on the stage, but I had almost like the agency business back then going on. And so it sort of evolved that way. But yeah, it's amazing how when we take something we didn't even know we were good at because we've been doing it in a different capacity or through different lenses, and then suddenly you find that's just it, isn't it? You suddenly find you're helping other people that it seems second nature to you, but it's completely alien to them. Yeah, and then
I said this to my husband at the time. I was like, why would anybody want to hear about this kind of thing from me? And he said exactly that. You know, you've got to remember that it's just come second nature to you. You find this easy, but not everybody else does, you know, and we all have our skill sets, don't we?
Yeah.
What is easy to somebody else would be an absolute nightmare to me.
I think that's really inspiring, because some people who may be listening to this might be at that stage where they're looking to leave a corporate role, or they're, you know, a job or a role that they maybe have outgrown, or they want to do something different. They don't know where to start. And I think that's actually really inspiring for people at that stage, which is that, you know, you don't actually necessarily have to be thinking too broadly or too differently. And you quite likely do have skills and things about you that are unique to you, and like you say, that just seem normal. And I think so many women in business are like that. It's I was speaking to somebody recently who she said what she does just feels like it's so intuitive. She's like, it feels like I've always done this and I haven't, but it's come really naturally to me. I think that's when you know that that's your gifts, right? The gifts that you've been blessed with.
I mean, I couldn't imagine for myself now a life without some form of planning and organisation. And I think many will relate to this, because if I don't plan my week, if I don't plan my day, if I don't organise the meals at home, I feel completely out of control. And I feel a bit like, the Flintstones. Remember them in their little car, and their legs pedalling super fast. I feel a bit like that, because it's a feeling of, I feel out of control. And I don't know what that says about me. I mean, I'm sure psychologists will be like, whoa, but I probably am a bit of a control freak in some ways, that I like a control element of my life. I'm not a great winger. And so to be able to plan and to organise literally every element of my life gives me a sense of comfort. And I know that then that things get done. Otherwise, they don't get done if it's not written down.
Yeah, well, that's the age-old thing, isn't it? If it's not in the diary, it won't happen. I'm the same, and especially when you are juggling a lot. That's why I think mums that are working as well have those challenges, because there's a lot going on in our heads. And I know this isn't just exclusive to women, but the way the female brain works is more like multidimensional, and so we do have a lot of open running apps going all at one time in our heads. And I mean, gosh, sometimes I have so many things in my head that I forget the simplest thing, and then I feel awful. But if it's not there, so I like visual reminders. I'll put something somewhere. No, I don't like mess, so anyone else's mess is just mess to me. But for me, if something is somewhere, it's there for a reason, and it's so that it reminds me something that, visual prompts. But how do you stay on your plan? So you create a plan, you're like, right, I now know I've got my time blocked. I guess it's a discipline, but something I struggle with is like, I'm a great planner, but then I'll go rogue.
And you're not on your own. So many people I work with have exactly that problem. They can mark it all out. And listen, I'm not perfect. I will make a plan, and I also will go rogue, but I know how to get myself back on track. And I know people might be listening to this and go, oh, I've heard this before, but it's so true. And there are some steps that you just have to follow, like setting those priorities. What actually is the most important thing in your day? Because when I plan out my day, I will have 2 or 3 things that are non-negotiable. These have to get done in order for me to either progress in my business or in my home life, or in the family, whatever hat I happen to be wearing in that moment. And they have to get done. And I will do them first. There's that book, the famous book by Brian Tracy, where he says about, you have to eat that frog. And it's really important to make sure that you absolutely stuff that frog in first thing in the morning, get it down and get it done. Because then when you do go rogue, because, that is just the nature of the beast. I've learned, for example, one of my ways of working is I will plan out my week, my whole week. And I'm brilliant. Monday, Tuesday, I start to track a little bit by Tuesday. Friday, I'm like, don't plan. That plan. I pack everything in on a Monday and a Tuesday. It gets a little bit less important over the course of the week. So by Friday, the things that are on my to-do list aren't quite so important. So actually, if they get pushed for another time, then that's okay. I think you need to know as an individual when your golden moments are, when you're super productive, when you are, when you're more attentive, when you're less likely to go rogue. And that's looking at your life, because there's there's no point in me planning anything in from 4 o'clock, say on a Thursday or a Friday or anything like that, because I know that there's loads of stuff that happens with the kids.
Yeah.
And if I try and multitask,
yeah,
it's just not going to happen, and I'm going to feel frustrated and overwhelmed and all of those feelings that we get.
Yeah.
So I think the first step for anybody to do is to actually know themselves and be honest with themselves.
Yeah.
And be honest with the amount of time that they have, because we like to kid ourselves that we've got more time than actually we have.
That is my biggest time blindness is my biggest issue, and I will absolutely oversubscribe myself. And this has been an ongoing habit, not just daily, but I think I can do more in a day. I think I can do a month's worth of work in a day. I think I can do a year's worth in a month, and so on, and everything's front loaded, so everything is urgent, important, and now. And it's obviously it's not true. I know that's not true, but I think what you're saying there about if you actually get really clear on just the top 3 things that absolutely have to happen, first of all in that week, but then in the day, you're more likely to end the day feeling good. And let's face it, we get derailed by a call from school with a poorly child, or unexpected things. They come up, and if we've actually planned every inch of the day with no space, you're gonna end up deflated, because it isn't gonna run to plan, right? So
you're gonna get cross, if you do that, you're gonna get a phone call, say from a friend, or your mum might call or something like that, and then you're gonna find yourself frustrated. Hang on a minute, I haven't accounted for that in my day. All of a sudden you are angry, and it's not the way to be.
It's not healthy, is it, if you're constantly feeling down on yourself for what you haven't done, as opposed to feeling proud of what you have done. And if you set the bar too high, you're never going to feel very good, because you've set it out of your out of the ballpark. But I think so white space in your plan is important, right?
I call it buffer space. I always say that you need that little bit of a buffer. You need a bit of wiggle room that you can not plan every half an hour in your day. There are some planners out there. We have hour slots in our planners. There are plenty out there that have half-hour slots, because people like to literally plan to the micro minute. I don't do that. Quite often I will put time block a task in that actually, if I stop procrastinating and if I get rid of all the distractions and all those things around me, I could do it in an hour, but I'll book for 2.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, over
for a little coffee, and I'll go, hang on a minute, I'm just going to check in on socials or do something. So I give myself those breathers.
Yeah.
So, and if it when you actually look at the amount of time tasks take you, add a little bit more on. And then if you've got some bonus time at the end of the day, brilliant. You probably won't, because other things happen, and all those phone calls and whatever can come in and can change your whole day.
Yeah, it's giving yourself that grace, isn't it? So that you've got that breathing room.
As business owners, we're really bloody hard on ourselves.
We are.
We think, especially when you compare yourself to other people out there online, well, they're achieving this, this and this, why aren't I? So I need to be working around the clock, and I need to be up at all hours, and I need to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning because that's what everybody else is doing. But we're not productive if we're working all the hours, and also going back to what I was saying about knowing yourself. Some people aren't productive at 5 o'clock in the morning. I actually am quite productive at that sort of time. I'm quite a good early bird, but give me a task to do sort of post 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm useless. I can't do it. So
you need to not try and fit someone else's mold, right? So actually, likewise, there are some people who just, I have this conversation with people sometimes where they fire up in the evening, because it's like, okay, the kids are in bed, the world is at rest, nobody's pinging me emails. It's like they've almost got that calm space from which to actually be productive. So I think, and if that's you, that's okay. And you're allowed to stay in bed at 5 a.m. and not have to burn the candle at both ends.
Exactly. My husband, he's like, he wouldn't start work at 5 o'clock in the morning if you paid him £1,000,000. He'd be like, no,
Lord mine.
I'm not getting up. Like, ask him to do a task at 11 o'clock at night and he's there. So
Yeah.
just all wired differently. And
Lean into
yourself.
Yeah. So I suppose then boundaries have got to be important with planning, right? Because if we don't have boundaries and we allow external things, people and occurrences to creep in, then we're going to be falling off plan left, right and centre if we're reactive and firefighting. I mean, unless that is your role to be reactive, but generally speaking, as business owners, that's the worst thing we can do, isn't it? And
yeah, I mean, I'm really quite strict on my boundaries. I didn't used to be. That was something that I had to learn, and I really learned it in COVID. And when I was, that horrible time of homeschooling, which is definitely meant for some people, it wasn't meant for me.
Me neither.
And I remember, of course, Zoom calls started and all of that kind of thing. And we were really at the point where we were taking the business to its next level, because my husband, who's also in the theatre, he'd lost his job at the time when COVID happened. So we were like, okay, we need to put everything into this business. So we were really, really working hard, but of course trying to sort the children out as well. So we worked out, a little schedule at home about that. And even though the kids were young, they could understand enough. And I always say, especially like if you struggle with boundaries, certainly when it comes to family members, it's just to talk to people. It's just to explain. This is what I'm trying to do. I used to say to my daughters, this is what Mum is trying to achieve. Because if I can do this, this means this, this, and this, and this for you. And so I actually put a sign on the office door at home, and it basically said, if you want a snack, go to the fridge, fruit only. Do not enter unless one of you is bleeding. And, boundaries can be as obvious as that, but you can also have those internal boundaries where let's face it, we all get distracted. It's like, that message pings in and you start looking, and next thing you know, you've spent half an hour on Instagram or something like that. And we've all been guilty of it, but huge distractions. So you've got to have those internal boundaries with yourself. So little hacks like putting your phone in a drawer if you don't need it. Or just turning the notifications off. Just finding your way not to distract yourself. Work in short bursts if that's something that you need to do. Some people can work for hours at a time. Some people just lose focus after 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So again, knowing yourself and knowing what your triggers are, what will set you off, you've got to learn those about you. You can learn that through a bit of self-discovery, a bit of journaling, that kind of thing, asking yourself those kind of questions. But boundaries are so important. We've got to be disciplined. When we've got limited time, which so many of us do, in order to make that time count, you have to sort of put your blinkers on and just go. Done what you need to, because that means then you'll probably get more done in a lot less time, and then you can go off and do all the wonderful things that you want to do, which is, coffee with friends or play with kids or go to the cinema or watch a film or watch EastEnders, whatever it is that you want to do, you'll have time to do that.
It actually buys you more time freedom, doesn't it, than being all over the place. I think it's one of those things that I think is logical to say it and to intellectualize it, but yet putting it into practice is the harder part. And I think it's it's one of those classic things where it's like we know it but don't always follow it. And I think that's probably where the discipline part comes in. It's not easy, particularly, I suppose, depending on how we're wired, but if you are a fixer and a problem solver, or if you know that you're prone to people pleasing, and we live in such a distracted world, don't we, with notifications, like you say, and because people can access us left, right and centre digitally, there are interruptions should we allow them in. So I think it is about
expectations as well.
Yeah.
You know, there's all comes in externally. Well, hang on a minute. You didn't answer me straight away. You know, I get customers that might message us about the planner, or, you know, if it's arrived, say, from a third-party source, and, you know, unfortunately, things sometimes, you know, can arrive damaged, or, you know, there might be a customer service query, and they will message at 11 o'clock at night, and they don't get an answer on the Perfect Planner email, and so then they start going into our Instagram, and then 11:30 I'll get personal messages into my personal inbox, and then, you know, the question marks, and
oh, that is so rude.
oh, believe me, you get a lot of it. And it's like, why haven't you responded? And you have to make those boundaries. You have to enforce those boundaries. I could give in and say, actually, I have seen this, I will answer it. Or I can wait until 9 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
So it's very, very difficult when you have got all of these things coming at you to go, oh, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to answer this client, or I'm just going to send this email. But what does that say to the other people around you if you do that? If they see that email that you sent them has got an 11 p.m. timestamp on it, they go, oh, it's all right to message them at that time.
They learn then,
It's a learned behaviour. And so you have to set those boundaries, and nobody can teach you that. And I know that we can say to people, and people know it, but you have got to be able to enforce that onto yourself, because you'll feel so much better for it. You feel so much more empowered, you know.
One thing I've done and still do sometimes, if I do find myself, for whatever reason, doing some work at a, you know, not particularly sociable hour, it could be because I know that I'm going to be out the next day or not going to get any time or something. If I'm like, oh, I really want to reply to this, where possible, I will write things and schedule it to send at 9 o'clock the next day, because then at least you're not, like you say, training people around you that you are available at that time, even though it's convenient for you at that time. And I think that's quite a good hack, especially for the late night workers, or even early morning. If you're like, I'm not going to send this now, but you can still type things, schedule things, save them in drafts or what have you.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no hard, fast rules with this. And if you're one of those people that's happy to send, you can speak to people at that time. But it's just whatever your particular boundaries are. And I know for me, answering customer service emails at 11 o'clock at night, I don't want to do it. So you have to just decide what works best for you, and let your customers, clients, team, whoever know that. And people have to be okay with that. And
they really do. And I worry about the next generation with this, because I don't know about your kids, but I know I see it through mine and their interactions with their friends. But already they have this, like, they cannot leave a friend on, they call it on open. It's like they're on open, and it means the person's opened the message on whatever platform, but you haven't replied yet. They're like, oh, no, I have to reply because I've opened it now. And I think it's almost like a cultural thing with these sort of teenage kids, that if you haven't replied straight away, that's somehow rude or going to cause a problem. And I keep trying to drum it into my children that it's okay. For instance, it might be dinner time, and, oh no, I just need to send this message. No, you don't. Put it away. You can reply afterwards.
You must have been in my house.
I'm sure it's hugely common, but, you know, it's like, you don't need to reply. It's okay if you are, I don't know, eating dinner, going to the bathroom, traveling, or whatever it might be. You know, people can wait. The world doesn't stop. And I do worry about them. And I mean, I'm doing my best to drum it into my children, but I'm sure there'll be other people that this resonates with. But they've got to learn, because they live in a now culture where everything's available on demand.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, we struggle with that a lot. And, you know, and again, this distracts, you know, going back to planning. That is, you know, even with my daughter, who's now 13, she's getting a lot of homework. So I sit with her and we write out a plan for the week.
Mm.
And actually, if she gets distracted by TikTok or, you know, the messages coming in and that need to reply immediately. And also, you know, the way that all the friends behave if you don't, and we do have all of that exactly the same as you, then the plan goes wrong and the homework doesn't get done. And I think it's even more time critical with them because they're at school all day. And they've got activities. You know, both my kids are into music and performance and all of those things. So they have all of that stuff after school. And it's quite full on, it's quite intense. And so the homework has got to be done. So we literally sit on a Saturday and go, right, what needs to be done over the course of this week? And we will plan all of that in. And I feel a bit of a meanie stood over right, or turning off TikTok. Or
they'll thank you for it, though. They will thank you for it. And, you know, I think maybe we need to teach them to do things like putting on that do not disturb and just not allowing that distraction in and things so that they can focus on one thing at a time. That is difficult when you are like us and we're doing multiple plates spinning, and before you know it, you're like, wait a second, I was distracted, and therefore they've got distracted occupying themselves. But yeah, it's a lot to think about, isn't it? It really is.
And we do juggle, we spin all the plates, and you know, we have to find ways to manage that, and managing the children's emotions and everything as well is huge.
It's huge. Do you find so one of the things I love with your planners, and I always use this kind of thing, is the personal and the work stuff, because I love that it's like, right, this is work, this is personal, I can now see it. I love the day planners. Sometimes if I've got a day that just feels particularly crazy, I will pull out one of those sheets and I will just go, right, let's just get this on here because now I can see it clearly. I love that, and I love the physical element of the planning. There's so many digital things that you can do now, but I don't think there's any way of replacing the physical stuff, because once it's digitalized, for me, my problem is, well, you can close that file, it's out of sight, out of mind. But when it's physical, it's right there on your desk, or, you know, I might put it in my bag with me or whatever. Do you feel there's still like so much value in that? Are you finding that people are still very keen on the physical?
Yeah, and I think more so. I mean, I used to worry about it and think, you know, this business has got such a short shelf life because people are going to be just going to digital, or, you know, and you get people that say, oh, I use Google Cal or something like that, and they love it, or they use, you know, there's all sorts of things like Monday and Asana. There's loads of things like that. But
I use those as well.
Absolutely, they complement it, and I think as well, I found, and sort of people that I've spoken to, is that we spend so much time on our phones like this. We're on our phone, we're on the laptop, and actually to be able to take yourself away and to write in your planner, to plan out your day, to map out your goals, whatever it might be. And all of that is within our planners, you know, to really help people sort of go through that step by step that they need to do in their business and their life. Yeah. Because when you're an entrepreneur, it does blend. There is no getting away from it. No. We do have a massive, massive blend of work and life. Yeah. So that's why we were really, really big on that. But nothing can take away the therapy, I suppose, that comes from writing things down. And I don't know about you, but I find for me it sticks better.
Oh, definitely.
Down. When I write it down, I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to get done. I know that goal is going to be achieved. I know that I'm going to work towards it. I know that I'm going to be working out, you know, my sales. And I still, you know, yes, we do document everything is online when it comes to that. But I still like to see, you know, our sales figures for the month. And I still like to see, because I can just see it visually straight away. You know, there's growth. Yeah. There it is. Or that's my week. Or that's the exercise. That's a workout. So I'm going to do this week. Yeah. And it just, one, it sticks better. And two, I find it so comforting to be able to write things down. It just immediately, it's like, just like this huge release of stress. And it's nice to get away from the devices.
It is.
And nothing you can do as well can stop with that double page spread that you've got when you look at your week.
Yeah.
You can't get that same feeling on a phone. It's tiny.
I can completely agree, and I couldn't agree more that like there's something really comforting about sitting down, curling up in a comfy chair with a planner or even journaling, that sort of thing, and just having pen to paper and just letting stuff flow. Sometimes ideas come and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna put that over here, and not having to conform to the platform. Like I use Google Calendar because I work with a team and we have to schedule things, and things like this, and that works great, and Asana as a team and for projects, but that's different. This is for me, and no one else needs to see it, so it can be in physical form, but it is also not going to, if I've left it at home and I'm somewhere, it's okay because my essential diary is still in my phone.
Yeah,
so
you're
going.
Yeah.
So it, like you say, it does definitely complement it. It serves a different purpose.
Definitely. And it's personal to you, so it doesn't matter if it's scrappy or super neat or however you want it, or you've pimped it up with stickers or whatever some people like to do. It's totally personal to you.
And
I like them as well. I keep them all because I keep them and I look at the journey and I look at what I was doing then, and you can see your growth, and whether it's business growth or personal growth or growth in fitness or health or well-being, you can look at all of that, especially if it's all there. You have used the diary properly, the way that it's intended to be used. It's such a lovely thing to go and look back on. So
it really is. And you can track. I love that you've got trackers and things in some of them where you can track even things like whether it's your water intake or something that you're trying to stay on top of that week. And that's eye-opening. Like I definitely do that because I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that. And then like, oh, actually I missed that day. Like, because you can see, you're actually holding yourself accountable when you don't have anyone else there to hold you accountable sometimes.
You have to get honest with yourself. And
you do.
Sometimes it's a bit, whoops.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you're right. Like personal and business is so intertwined, isn't it? When you're particularly a mum, but even if you're not a mum, just your business and your life, it's very intertwined and there's a lot to juggle. Do you see then, so you said at the beginning about the time when you had a team in direct marketing, direct sales, and you saw just from their less organised place to getting them organised, the difference it made on their actual performance, on their, I guess, income and everything. Do you see that sort of shift then when people are more organised generally?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have so many sort of people come to us with the planners and things like that, just saying, this planner's literally has changed my life, and it still blows my mind. It's, I don't think I'll ever take it for granted hearing things like that. It just blows my mind every single time. But because you follow a certain steps in a certain order, so we call it our 6 steps to success.
Yeah.
So, you follow this kind of wheel and everything is sort of centered around your why and why you're doing the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you follow these steps, it will completely change your life. I just know it will, because if we put aside those distractions and if we put aside, we work on our habits, we work on sort of creating those positive habits in our life, we work on managing our time, we work on, and it sounds a lot, it sounds so much, and you don't have to do it all overnight, but just little bits every single day, just making ourselves just a little bit better at time management, or better at procrastination, or better at boundaries, or better at distractions. All of the things that are out there, if we just can do a little bit every day, it will make all the difference. And the difference that I saw with those mums in the early days was just so huge. It was so huge, because the results that they were getting in terms of business, but in terms of income, and then what they were getting in time back.
Yeah.
Hang on a moment, I've just made this amount of money. but I wasn't working half as hard as I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, they weren't working that hard. They were just flapping a little bit, and they were a bit like fish out of water.
That's it, yeah.
Honed in, got things done, knew what they had to do. Here's the list. I'm going to work through it.
Yeah.
Get it done. And then I've got all the time now to go off and play with my child and take them to the soft play, or
Yeah.
the things that we were doing as sort of early on mums together.
Yeah.
At the time.
That's so good.
Yeah, it made such a huge difference. And it does still today. You know, I still get messages from people every day saying how the planners have absolutely changed their lives because they follow the formula. And my brain works in that kind of way. It's a real, here's point A, and in order to get to Z, I have to go to B next. I can't go A to S. That's not going to work because there's going to miss out a whole load of stuff and then I'm just lost. So if I go B next, tick B off, B to C. Yeah. And that's how I do it. And that's the sort of ethos that I've put into the planners when I was creating them. Yeah. They follow this structure. And that structure seems to work for a lot of people, you know.
I love that.
Thousands and thousands, which is just...
It is amazing. It is so amazing that you've taken skills you learned and developed through, you know, a performer career and almost stumbled into this. And now that work is absolutely transforming lives. It is crazy when you think that, like, to some people that think, oh, as a planner, like you write stuff in it. It's like, no, it literally transforms people's lives. It transforms their business, their performance, probably their relationships. Like, it probably brings about, well, in fact, I know it does from my own stuff, but self-awareness, because through the practice, you become more aware of what does distract me, what does derail me, or, you know, why am I spending so much time on this when I, you know, actually my passion is over here on this. And I think there's so much can come from getting into that. And I would say anyone that's feeling a little overwhelmed, lost, scatty, or like you said, the Flintstones, you know, going like it's really, really fast with your feet, but actually not getting very far. Yeah. And it's exhausting doing that, but actually you can just take some nice strides and go a lot further if you get your shizzle together.
That's it. And then you've got to do it. You've got to do it because, you know, as we've talked about, but none of this works unless you're willing
to actually do it,
to actually take the action.
And I think that to some extent your process builds that accountability in to the process, doesn't it?
Yes.
So
you've got, but and teaching people, and you know, within all of the planners as well, there's little QR codes, and you can click on those, and they'll take you through some steps, you know, that really do help you to make sure that you do take that action. And you can start, you know, gentle at the beginning, and it's the same, just work it up, and learn through various methods what works for you.
Yeah.
No, not one of us is the same. Not one of us is wired the same way. And we all like to do things differently. And we've all got different priorities and different things that need to be taken into account. So work those out.
Yeah.
Work it out. Be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And create that plan for you.
Yeah.
And organise yourself and find little ways, you know, that little hacks that you can do.
Yeah.
You know, I do offer services to help people to do that, but ultimately most people do know that themselves. They just got to go on.
Well, but you know, I was having a conversation earlier about exactly this thing of like, we do know things, but we don't necessarily do them. And your services and getting your help with that could be the difference between it happening and it not. Like, in the same sense that most of us know that if we, you know, eat healthily and exercise, we're going to be in good shape, or, you know, or if we like decide that we ought to do some exercise, well, we know intellectually, well, I can go for a run, or I can walk, or whatever. We know it, but yet we still pay for PTs and things like that. Now, there would be no such thing as a PT if we all went, well, I know what to do. It's like, yes, but you still get those services from somebody who helps you they almost can hold up a mirror. They can see what you can't see because you're too close to it. They can guide you, keep you accountable. And that's exactly what you do in the planning side of things. And all the other niches that I'm sure lots of our listeners are in, it's like, I'm sure lots of people do know, but they don't actually embody it or do it. And that's where your help can come in. And yeah, if anyone listening is going, well, yeah, I love all of this, I know I come unstuck, then having help from you. Yeah.
A bit of guidance. Yeah, absolutely.
And spotting the nuances that are unique to them. Because like you said, some people might need a wall planner and other people might want to, like I said to you, there are times I don't use a day sheet every day, but there are times when I go, I need one of those sheets today. That's what I need in this moment. And it's knowing what, like you say, works for you. And people might need help with that and figuring that out. So I love that you offer that.
Absolutely. So, we do Zoom calls and planning sessions and all of those things because it's important.
Amazing.
It's important.
It is.
We don't want to waste our days.
No.
I always think, there's so much to do, not just so much to do, but there's so many things that we could be doing, like, that developing ourselves or exercise or cooking a healthy meal, all of that. And we all too easily go, I don't have time. Don't have time for any of that. You have to make time. And it's knowing where our weaknesses are. And funny you were saying about the PT, that is definitely my weakness. I know I should exercise 3 times a week. I don't trust myself when it's nice and high at home. So I know that's a weakness. So I have a PT. I see the PT twice a week. I have 2 really, really good sessions in. Yeah. And, it puts me in a really positive mindset because I know that it's getting done.
It's getting done. Yeah. They don't have to bring some magic secret sauce to the table that is like, oh, wow, revelation, never knew that. That's not what they're there for. They're there to keep you on point, right? And
charge me a fortune if I don't. Yeah. So
exactly. But it's got to hurt. Otherwise you wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It is so true. I don't know off the top of my head, I'll find it and put it in the notes, but the stat of something like 10 minutes a day or half an hour a day just lost on nothing and what that accumulates to over the course of a month and a year. And when you actually look at how much, time you lose and go, oh my God, that's a week. Overall, it's
30 minutes of planning will save you hours. It will save you hours. Just 30 minutes of planning a week will save you probably about 6 hours
in a week.
Yeah, in a week.
Wow.
Just flap otherwise.
That's the whole day, really, isn't it? That's the work day for most people.
It's a whole day's gone because we get, as we talked about, all those distractions. I'll go to the phone. You lose. You think about it, little blocks of 20 minutes here and 20 minutes there. And actually, if you just stick to the plan or stick to the priorities, as best as you can and get those bits done, then you can go and sit there and scroll on social media. Do it while you're watching the telly or whatever, Lock it into your schedule if you really want to sit there and scroll. Just block an hour out, a scroll time. But just allow yourself to have it if you know that's what you want, but don't take it away from the important things that need to be done to help you grow yourself, your family, or your business.
I think that's a really key takeaway there as well, is if you need, if you struggle with knowing what is a priority, I think start with that. Start with, almost always it's the age old Simon Sinek thing of start with why, but just start with why am I doing this? What are the most important things? If you've got limited time, what matters most? What's going to move the needle most for where I'm going right now? And start with there, get that done first. Anything else is a bonus. And Absolutely. Great reminder. What a great reminder. I think that's the other thing. You can't hear things too many times or in too many different ways, can you, until you've got it nailed. And even then, I think we still need reminders and encouragement. And because we're humans and we do go off the path a little bit. I think it would be really unrealistic to say, here's a plan, you stick to it, you get organised, and we are perfect from here on in. We're not. We're not. We do deviate and we do go off on a tangent, and as you said, we do go rogue. It's really, really normal.
But it's knowing, here is the plan. These are the things that I want to achieve. This is what's important. And when you do go off and you do go a little bit rogue, or you get lost on the path, you find your way back, and you just pick up where you left off. Don't give yourself a hard time over it.
No, that's one of the things I'm still working on stopping myself from doing. But you have to, if you spend all your time just berating yourself for what you didn't do, it just doesn't help things. You've got to go, okay, I've spotted it, so I know what to do to course correct and get back on. I love your planners, and I used your summer holiday wool thing. I had that saved. I think I got it earlier in the year, and I used it this summer, and I loved having that up over the summer for the kids, just kind of going, we're here, they're here, that's happening. And it's actually really nice for sharing. Yeah, I love that.
Do it all together, it's like, I get them to shout out some of the things that they want to do.
The ideas as well. I was like, fill this up, please. It's great.
And they get excited, don't they? We thought of that idea, and now we're going to do it. So
they are. They're brilliant.
You write your memories in, and then you can keep it.
Yeah, I do as well. I do. I keep it, look back, what did we do that year? And it's fun as you see them grow and the different things they want to do that they didn't want to do before. That's always good.
What distractions?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, so people who are curious that don't know where to find you, we'll put the links in the notes anyway, but where's the best place for them to find your stuff and you?
Yes, so you can find us, our website where you can have a look for all of our products is perfectplannerco.com. So you can find us on perfectplannerco.com, but we probably hang out the most on Instagram, which is perfectplanner.company. So come over there, give us a follow. You can see all the behind the scenes stuff, everything that goes on. And also there's all sorts of links and information there that takes you to my free Facebook group, which is called She Loves to Plan. And you can find me on there, and I'm often in there sort of helping people. Lots of tips, lots of advice, lots of hacks, especially over this sort of busy time of year when we're recording this podcast. So so any one of those avenues will take you sort of further into our world.
I love that, Monique. Thank you so much. I'm sure lots of people will be heading over there and finding, like, there's something for everyone. I can tell you firsthand. I've tried all the things, so there's something for everyone, and it definitely does help you get your head and your space and your life and your business in a better place. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom, your story, your tools and your tricks with us, and just generally having this lovely conversation with us today. Really appreciate it.
So much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright, because you were born to be brilliant.